September has been the month that Telltales became The Walking Dead themselves. Isabella had gone from a lover to a fighter in Smash Bros, and Bowsette is the new queen of memes. As for me though, well, it's been a slow month really. I've been playing a small game, then a big game that took over my September, and then a DLC for a game from last year. Now it's time to talk about those games and what I think of them. Now remember, these are my opinions and sometimes there might be some spoilers along the way. So here are the games that I have been playing and their designated times in this video. Welcome back to the HUD everyone, I'm Zacharoni and today I'll be going through some of the games I have been playing in September. So without further ado, please be seated and here comes your second helpings. When I first saw the Messenger in action, I was intrigued by the time hopping mechanic where it presents itself from 8-bit to 16-bit that revealed more platforms and secret areas in the game. But when I started playing it, I found it to be a tough game with tight controls, challenging levels that require me to use my abilities that I've got, and challenging boss fights that kept me on my toes. At the first half, it started off linear where it showed me the ropes with the abilities I was getting, but then it became a Metroidvania where the objectives are hidden and I have to rely on clues to find them. At first I got bored of this, but later I discovered that I could ask for help from the shopkeeper, and then I was back on track having fun with the newer areas. Now I know the game wants me to play it without this feature, but I just don't have the patience for this kind of game really, so don't judge me. The only complaint I have is that the payoff was not that satisfying, and it gave me an achievement saying the fake ending was better. So I thought I might get all the green tokens to get the real ending, but I was wrong. So that means it's the official ending to the game, even at 100% completion. So while the ending wasn't spectacular, I still had a good time with this game, and hopefully we see more from the Messenger, which is pretty obvious with that cliffhanger at the end. I'll be honest, when I first saw gameplay of Marvel's Spider-Man, my expectations were low because it's almost trying too hard to keep up with Arkham, and I'm probably not the only one saying that. But after I got my hands on it, it seems like Insomniac Games had got a secret ingredient they didn't show during gameplay reveals, and I like it. Also, before we start, I'm not a big Marvel comic fan, but I know Spider-Man's origins in movies and in recap videos, so I'll be just judging this as a gamer. So now that that's out of the way, let's begin. Right off the bat, Spider-Man is a blast to play when traveling across New York. From its web swinging to running on walls, I feel like I was in control of its actions, making traversal a breath of fresh air, and it made finding collectibles a breeze. Combat may be a bit twitchy at first, but I managed to master a set of combos and the list of skills I unlock during my playtime. Stealth takedowns come in handy when dealing with sniper enemies, and the different types of webs add some variety to combat. And yes, I should have said Spidey sense for his dodging mechanic. Now remember in my toppings video where I kept Peter's new boss a secret? Well, here comes the elephant in the room, Dr. Octavius, who soon to be the antagonist of the game, Doc Octopus, is the boss that Peter is assisting. This actually surprised me because the game takes place 8 years after Peter became the famous web swinger, and Octavius didn't receive his tentacles at the time, making this a new take on the Spider-Man lore. Now I know Octavius becoming the villain was predictable, but it's how it was told that I like, with his reasoning and hatred to the mayor's decision. Oh, and that mayor is actually Norman Osborn, which might be familiar to some, but he has a dark secret that you might not be expecting. However, the true star of the game is Spider-Man himself. I find him likable because he is now more mature, and he is smarter than the one I saw in the movies. Plus, he makes hard decisions that affect his actions, which comes to the ending that was quite sad, but there was nothing he could do really. Plus, Mary J and Miles Morales get their own sections involving stealth. While not that challenging, it is a nice change of pace to the main story. Plus, I'm curious about Miles' role in the next game after seeing that twist at the end. As for the side missions, they are pretty creative, like taking photos to stop a bank heist, but my favorite is preventing bombs from blowing up by an internet celebrity, who she believes she will get a lot of hits from her fans for recording Spider-Man doing heroic things. Now I know that a lot of gamers say that Spider-Man 2 is the greatest Spider-Man game of all time, but I haven't played it, well, properly, because it would release at a time that I didn't understand video games, so I can't judge to say that this game is better than that one. So while I can't say that this is the best Spider-Man game ever, I can say that this is one of my favorite games of 2018. But for superhero games, well, it still can't topple Arkham. City. Made you say which one, didn't I? Hehehe. A Hat in Time was one of my favorite games of 2017, with its likable characters, simple gameplay, tight controls, and epic bosses. Now, Gears for Breakfast had just released their first DLC for the game that comes with a new chapter and a new mode starring the Snatcher. And it's a good thing I got this for free, because the chapter is short and the new mode is too spicy for me to handle. The new chapter is called The Arctic Cruise, where, you guessed it, takes place on a cruise ship managed by a crew of adorable little white seals, while their captain is a smoking old walrus who take his job seriously. It started off simple, with exploring the ship, finding timepieces, and then the second act gets intense, where I was doing errands like delivering food and drink to the passengers as fast as I could. But then the third act was a letdown. It involved me saving everyone from the sinking ship, and that's it really. It's a huge disappointment because I was expecting more acts or maybe an epic boss fight. But luckily, these new time risk stages are well put together, and it not only shows the walrus's backstory, but also mustache skills as well. The final element of this DLC is Death Wish mode, where at first I was disappointed that it's not a new difficulty mode that changed the storyline, but instead it's a challenge mode where I go through the same acts with special conditions, like cooling off in water to prevent sunburn, and boss fights that are more difficult than their predecessors. However, there are some questionable design choices I have with this mode. Why are there guided missiles in a stealth section? Why did the timer not stop during cutscenes? And why is there a countdown clock in time rift levels that require me to collect special pawns in hidden areas to unlock the next area? It's like they have gone too far with this mode and added too much wasabi to this add-on. Oh, and speaking of time rifts in this mode, you have to complete them without losing all 3 of your lives to unlock the next area. Otherwise, you have to wait for a time limit for them to be playable again. And that was the moment that I had to stop. But don't get me wrong, I like a challenge, but this one is just too much for me to handle. Luckily, this mode didn't affect the 100% completion. It just used to unlock new costumes and camera filters. So overall, at £3.99, it's a seal deal for a cruise ticket, but Death Wish reminds me of those meatballs that were too much for me to cope with. And trust me, they are. Well, that's all the games I played in September. I hope you appreciate my opinions, and if you like what you see, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. But until then, I'm Zacharoni. Enjoy your pizza, and I'll see you next time.